Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and as we get one day closer to that big semi-final at Hampden this weekend, we have a wee bit to talk about which actually builds off the back of something we discussed yesterday on the channel, that being the manager's contract, Brendan Rodgers, and his future with Celtic Football Club. Well, today we heard from a Celtic player themselves directly about the situation and their opinion on the matter, and we've got that and a few other wee things to talk about, including a new partnership for the club. So bear with me, we're going to try and cover it all. I'm just choking for the semi-final at this point, to be honest. I wish it was Sunday. You know what to do by now. If you haven't already, please go down below, hit like, hit subscribe. We're about 40 subscribers away from 49,000, which means we're so close to 50k. Let's try and get there by the end of the season. Go down below, it's absolutely free. Hit those buttons. Let's start, shall we, with the story I mentioned in the intro to today's video. A lot of conversation recently about Brendan Rodgers and his contract moving forward. Well, we've heard directly from a certain Celtic player about that situation and their opinions on the matter. The player in question being Celtic's right back and Canadian international Alistair Johnston. He was in the media over the last 24 hours talking about Brendan Rodgers, his love for the manager, and the hopes that he will put pen to paper on a new deal. Of course, Brendan Rodgers enters the last year of his contract next season, and when the season is over and done with, well, Brendan Rodgers is meant to be over and done with at Celtic. So big question marks remain about Brendan Rodgers signing an extension with the club, but Alistair Johnston has made it perfectly clear that's what he wants to see. Now, we heard Stephen McGowan's opinion yesterday, but coming straight from a player at the club, a little bit more in that. So here were Alistair Johnston's comments on Scream, saying that the gaffer has been great since he walked in the door. I think his resume speaks for itself, not only for his time here, but elsewhere. He's a winner. It's as simple as that. He's a manager that you love to play for. But obviously, these sorts of decisions are well above my pay grade. But at the end of the day, I think it will come to what the gaffer wants. He's proven time and time again what a top manager he is and how much he loves this club, how much he loves being here for the fans. But I think it's a decision between him and the club, and hopefully there's something that can keep him here for the long term. He has one more year after this, and no matter what, he'll be here next year. I think there's something there's something there that all the fans and players can be excited about. So Alistair Johnston making it perfectly clear he wants to work under Brendan Rodgers in the long term, and I think for a lot of people who maybe needed a wee bit of reassurance or clarification, more importantly saying that he can pretty much guarantee that Brendan Rodgers will be here next year. I hope we can take your word on that, Ali. Don't be telling us porkies now. In all seriousness, I think that's a non-starter anyway. I'm pretty sure we can all make the assumption Rodgers will be here next year and he intends on seeing out that 3-year deal. It's all about what happens after that. And I think that, you know, Alistair Johnston will probably speak on behalf of every player who's currently at the club that they would like to see Rodgers stay. And he certainly speaks my line of thinking when saying that he hopes he's here for the long term, because that's what I want. I want Brendan Rodgers to be here as long as possible to have the best chance of making a dent in Europe and taking this club forward. And I think the best way to do that is to do it without chopping and changing things every few years. So as Alistair Johnston says, if they can put something down on the table, if they can encourage Brendan Rodgers to stay at the club and give him the tools he needs to make this the club to be at for the next wee while, there's no reason why we shouldn't be having those conversations behind the scenes, and hopefully those above the pay grade of Alistair Johnston have initiated those conversations. Alistair was full of praise for the manager in this interview. He went on to say that obviously I came under Ange to play as an inverted fullback and I hit the ground running a little bit, but I was still starry-eyed and trying to find my place. But when Rodgers came in, he kind of unlocked me in terms of where he wanted me, and wanted me to be that fullback that bombs up and down. Not only a shutdown kind of defender, but also one that was constantly overlapping. He's seen the ability I had to do that, and between him and John Kennedy, they've fine-tuned me and got me into the best form I think I've ever been in, certainly at the start of the season. So he's been great for me. There's no doubt about that. I've really enjoyed playing under him, and hopefully that continues for a long time. There you go, straight from the horse's mouth. Brendan, listen to Alistair. I want you here for a long time, sir. I just think this line of the interview is just a great testament to the manager that Brendan Rodgers is, because a lot of people recently have been complaining once more about talent ID and the signings that Brendan Rodgers has made, some of them not hitting the ground running or some of them not pulling their weight to the level that we expected of them. But one thing that has been abundantly clear, and I feel like the majority of Celtic fans have agreed on in the times where Rodgers has been in charge, both in his first and second spell, is that how much he makes a player better. And basically everybody that he inherited from the Ange Postecoglou era at Celtic, he has managed to turn into a better player. I can't think of any examples of once he turned into a worse player, to be quite honest. You look at Johnston, who's a fine example and has spoke himself about the fine-tuning that him and John Kennedy have done. You look at Matt O'Reilly last season, who took his game to another level, and perhaps a level that was some of the best football we've seen from an individual in Scotland in a long, long time. The fact that you look at Dyson Maeda, who is enjoying the best season of his Celtic career under Brendan Rodgers, looking like a next-level player. Those are just a few examples of this current spell that Brendan Rodgers has taken to another level. But you can go back to the first spell. You can look at Callum McGregor, what he done for him. You can look at Tom Rogic, what he done for him. You can look at even Scott Brown and what he done for him. You know, Brendan Rodgers has got a very good track record at taking players and making them better. So for maybe the players that you consider a dud, that you consider a flop of a signing, he makes up for it in what he does with players that he's inheriting, because he spots what they can do with their game and what they can do to take it to the next level. And that is such a huge factor of being a manager, and such a huge factor of being a good man manager, getting the best out of your individuals. So yeah, I truly believe everything Alistair Johnston is saying. I truly believe that he speaks for a majority, if not all, of that current Celtic squad and their opinions of the gaffer. And hopefully it's just some encouraging words to point Brendan in the right direction and signing on a longer term deal. Next year will be a pivotal year in the process for signing Brendan Rodgers up to a new contract. If you want to hear more about my thoughts, we did talk about it in yesterday's video, so I will nudge you in that direction, but I'm very confident that Rodgers will put pen to paper on some form of deal. Just make sure and back him this summer, Celtic. For goodness sake, don't let a good thing go. Celtic have announced a new partnership at the club, one that focuses on the future of the football club and perhaps in signing young talent to better the process of getting youngsters into the club. But this one comes overseas, if you want to stretch it as far as overseas, and comes from Ireland, because Celtic announced this morning that the Celtic Soccer Academy has announced a new partnership in Dublin with Cabinteely Football Club. The article went on to say that Celtic Soccer Academy is delighted to announce that it is engaging with Cabinteely Football Club as their new international club partner in South Dublin. Davies Stone, Director of Football at Cabinteely, said that we here at the club are delighted to announce our international partnership with Celtic. This collaboration marks a significant step forward for our club, providing further opportunities for our players and coaches to learn and develop their skills together with one of the most renowned academies in world football. Celtic's commitment to youth development and excellence in football aligns with our vision for continuing progress in the interests of all our members. There is also a huge fan base and interest in Celtic Football Club in Ireland. We look forward to a successful and lasting relationship that will benefit our players, coaches and the wider football community. So this is one of these partnerships that will probably focus primarily on the development of coaches, more specifically youth coaches, and bringing players through in these programs to give them a pathway to maybe becoming a professional footballer. We've seen one set up in America, I believe, quite recently. I think there's ones in other parts of the globe as well. So now one over with Cabinteely Football Club in Ireland to try and help the development of their youth players, to help the development of their coaches, and who knows, maybe an eye for Celtic to scout some talent in future years. You never know where these kind of pathways will go. Cabinteely are a club that is merged with League of Ireland side Bray Wanderers, so that seems to be their pathway into the senior team there. You come through the Cabinteely youth system, get yourself into the Bray Wanderers team, professional setup, and then obviously world's your oyster. So keep an eye out on that. Who knows, the League of Ireland is in a kind of boom period right now, so it's good for Celtic to put their foot in the water over there Who knows what football will be like in Ireland over the coming years or decades. It's nice for Celtic to get an involvement, especially obviously in a city as big and busy as Dublin. So yeah, it could be beneficial for the club. I wouldn't expect a huge deal of significance in imminent years, but who knows, over time it could be good work for Celtic. Final wee story for today, because it's catching the eyes of some Celtic supporters on social media. There was an announcement this morning from the English Football League that both Chris Davies and Tomoki Iwata respectively have been nominated for Manager and Player of the Season awards. Of course, Chris Davies, former assistant manager to Brendan Rodgers at Celtic, and Tomoki Iwata, who we sold coming up this time last year. We sold him in the summer to Birmingham. Both been nominated for awards down south and recognised for their excellence. So congratulations to them. I more wanted to talk about this because it's brought up the age-old discussion about Tomoki Iwata and if we should have let him go. So we will touch on that. But hey, Chris Davies, who knows? Maybe a future Celtic manager in the making with the connection he has to the club. Congratulations to him and of course Tomoki. I think this is a testament to the hard-working player that Tomoki Iwata was, and I'm so glad that he's went away and got that opportunity. I think that was the right move for his career. I think it was the right move for Celtic, and I will stand on that hill, because one thing that this announcement this morning has brought up again is the whole, oh, we shouldn't have let him go. And I understand where people are coming from in that opinion. But at the end of the day, he was never going to break into the team over Callum McGregor this year. He was never going to get the regular opportunities to excel as a footballer in this Celtic team. And that might be hard to accept, but it was always going to be the case. He'd done what was right for his career, and now he's seeing the rewards of that. There was never, ever a question in my mind over him being a fine football player. He's proving that at Birmingham, and I hope he continues to prove it in the Championship next season. The one thing I will say is, it's a significant level below Celtic. So, the people saying, oh, we should have kept him, I get it, but keep in mind, it's League One Player of the Year. I was at a League One game 2 weeks ago. I was down at Charlton against Huddersfield, and it was 4th versus 6th, I believe. So you're talking about two of the top sides battling for promotion, playoff spots. And I thought, could be in for a good game here. And don't get me wrong, it was a great game. I really enjoyed myself. It was fun to watch. But the standard was terrible. It was one of the worst games of football I have seen in a long time in terms of the quality of football being played in the park. The fact that you had Greg Docherty running the show for Charlton Athletic in the middle of the park, looking like a prime Iniesta, really summed it up for me. So Tomoki Iwata is a level above League One. And he was always going to be in that discussion for Player of the Year. I am not surprised by this in the slightest. And that's not me advocating for Celtic selling him and saying that you know, he's done it in a league where he's... I'm not saying that he's doing it in a league my nan could do it in, as the English would say. But what I am saying is, it comes as no shock to me that he's romped it down there, because I always had that expectation for him. So I hope that continues. Here, listen, if he does it next year in the Championship, then I will sit here and go, maybe we should have gave him those chances in the first team. But I also have to look at things with a sense of realism, and he done what was right for his career, in my opinion. Right then, that does it for today. Not a huge day of stories, but nonetheless a few wee things to talk about. So if you've enjoyed it, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We'll be back tomorrow building towards that Scottish Cup semi-final, and then of course the Celtic the Thunder podcast will be out on Friday. So until then, take care of yourself, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you all next time.